Hey everybody, John Lavenia here with another exciting installment of Interviews with Experts. And today I'm going to be talking with somebody who I've known for years. We've made a lot of money together, but we've also done a lot of broadcasting together. In other words, training and hosting conference calls and webinars and actually live events as well. And he's a guy who probably needs no introduction in the top tier direct selling space. He's actually, him and his wife Melissa have been around the high ticket, top tier kind of high profit home-based business space longer than me and my wife Shannon. So these guys have been around. They've seen pretty much everything, probably, right? He can certainly tell you for himself. But it's great to be able to work with somebody who's really had their head in what's working now and being able to kind of identify with the times, and the changes and all that, and adapt and continue to come out on top. So here's a guy who is one of the most funnest people, to listen to. And you'll hear him from time to time say things like, I've got a great face for radio. He was actually in radio. So anyway, with no further ado, let me bring out my buddy, Mr. Kevin Knecht from Atlanta, Georgia, no longer Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome to the East Coast, I guess, right? How you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you for that introduction. I've got a face for radio. What can I say? And now I see your face, and I thought, man, maybe we wouldn't have agreed to work with each other all those years ago if we had seen each other. I don't know.
How about that? Well, it's been great to get to know you, and of course your wife Melissa and your whole family over the years. Tanner, I've seen pictures of Tanner constantly going out on the web, and of course, having had a chance to be at events with you guys and Livy and all this, I get to, I really know the Knecht family, and I feel like I've known you for at least a decade. How long's it been?
Well, I think we met back in 2003. We joined the same company, and our first event, I remember meeting you because you were the guy. I mean, everybody wanted to meet John Lavenia, and that was January '04 in Orlando, Florida.
Wow. There you go. So it's been almost a decade since we met in person. We're just coming up on 2013 here in a couple months at the time of this recording. So anyway, Kevin, you've had a lot of experience. You've made a lot of money. You and your wife, Melissa, like I said before, once again, you've been around the home business space as full-time entrepreneurs, actually longer than me and Shannon. Tell everybody, we want some tips and tricks here, man. You've been around long enough that you must know the secrets, okay? So give us a bit of the background. What actually got you into the home business space, like for real, right? Not just to screw around and have a hobby, but for real. And how did your evolution go over however long that's been, a decade plus at this point?
Yeah, well, I was, you mentioned for real because I did join network marketing all the way back in 1994. I was working in radio advertising sales. I was 24 years old. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was really working with a bunch of part-timers and my upline and all those people who I thought were making a lot of money. And turns out nobody was making even $500 a month. So how could I go to the promised land following a bunch of people who were making no money? And they had jobs. And I knew that, but I didn't really understand that you could do it full-time. It wasn't actually until I met Melissa. Maybe you remember, we met online. I think you and Shannon maybe even met online way back in the day, right?
Yeah.
I met Melissa in December of 1997, and at the time, she was making enough money to be at home full-time with Josh and Olivia, who were 8 and 4 at the time. And I thought that was extremely impressive to find a woman who was making full-time money without a job. How do you do that? That was my first introduction.
And that was, you were looking for a business opportunity, or how did that connection happen?
I was working with a MLM company at the time, and I had just lost my job in radio advertising sales. I was living with my parents.
Nice.
It was not going well. And I actually met Melissa through AOL. I don't know if I was looking for a business or looking to find the ideal mate. And but what's interesting was I was listening to a lot of Tony Robbins back then because I really wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And he did an exercise, write down exactly what you want and create a deadline. And so for the first time, I learned how to write down what I really wanted instead of, bitching and moaning about all that was going wrong in my life, like living with my parents at age 27, which is pretty pathetic.
Yeah. So you found both. You found the business and apparently
Yeah, two for the price of one,
yeah,
right?
there it is. So bravo. There's a testimonial right there. There's a good reason to be looking for opportunities. And I know a lot of people who watch these interviews on both statement marketing and interviews with experts, they're looking for like, what is it that makes you an expert at this point? Like what, give us some credentials, some high points of your career so far. And of course, what caused that?
Well, there's a great saying that I like to use because I live it. Every master, quote, master, was once a disaster. And now I told you about the disaster side, broke, unemployed, no money, credit card debt, and then getting involved with somebody who was already having some results, and more importantly, better results than I was having. And Melissa and I together, we were able to be home full time from the time I met her in 1998 and 99 through 2003 when we met you at that first event that we went to in January of '04. And I think at that time, if I remember correct, you were like the top earner in your company at that time. So I knew I wanted to seek out the guys and gals who were having better results than us, figure out what makes what makes them work. What makes John Lavenia so much better than Kevin Knecht? And
I don't know about that. I'm not gonna own that, man. You're pretty awesome too. In fact, I believe in the excellence of everybody. Whether or not they fulfill that, whether or not they have integrity to that for themselves is another question, But I appreciate the acknowledgement. But what you're saying is you got around successful people, and you did what? Like some Tony Robbins modeling stuff?
Well, what I did was I just started following directions. You were a guy who said, this is what I do each and every week to get this result. So I thought, well, let's just do what John's doing. And some of the other leaders who were, around then, and just follow what they were doing. There was a system in place to follow the system. And then we just had to, follow directions and the result would come. We have to be coachable and trainable and put our old mindset, I guess I could have been the guy who said, well, maybe I'll do it my own way. But, at that time, you and Shannon, I think, just had your first $125,000 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
I hadn't even made that in the last 3 years, so I wasn't qualified to say anything other than tell me what to do.
So you actually, although being full-time in home-based business for years prior to having met me, you were not at the six-figure income level yet.
Not consistently. We had some spikes here and there, but honestly, living in the armpit of Pennsylvania, I called it up in Honesdale, PA. You could really live nicely for $5,000 a month and get by nicely, honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now $5,000 a month is, I don't know. I guess that's, what does the average American make? Like 3 or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting how our perspectives changed, though. Now, right? I mean, you've been to a couple of my homes in Arizona. You saw like here's a $20,000 per month house to maintain. Just here's 20 grand a month in bills, which I'm not saying that's the smart way to go. Okay, but the perspective kind of changes from here I am an average earner in the American workforce or something to now a full-time entrepreneur. So now that you had that experience, you've encountered myself, Shannon, and certainly plenty of other people who are making in a month perhaps what you were making in a year. What's been your best month or your best experience so far?
Our best month we had probably in 2008. I think we were 61,000 was our best month, and we hit over $100,000 in less than 90 days during that stretch. So that was a real taste of what was some of our potential, and it became normal for us because there were other people around us doing the very same thing. Now, if I had gone back to living in the little Pennsylvania town and started making $100,000 in 90 days, well, nobody around me was doing that. So for somebody watching this right now, you've got to become who you surround yourself with. If you're the smartest guy in the group, you need to find another group where maybe you're the dumbest guy for a while and learn from them whatever results they're having that you want. I mean, it has to be in alignment with what you want. I mean, somebody watching this, they're like, well, I could never make $100,000 in 90 days. I'm just happy doing this. Well, it won't work for you. You've got to have that goal. You've got to have the why behind it. When we joined that company in 2003, Melissa and I realized that we were done with winters in Pennsylvania. And I remember this. Your wife, Shannon, used to like type in January of 2004. I'd hear her on calls. Oh, I'm sitting out here in my hot tub. I'm in my backyard. It's a warm day in January here, February '04. I was like, son of a gun, man, we're going to be there. And we realized we had to make $100,000 to do that. So we set this outrageous goal for us at the time. Hey, if we make $100,000 in 6 months, we'll have the money to pick up the pack and move from Pennsylvania to Arizona, bring the kids, Josh, Olivia, Tanner, Melissa, me, and be able to live in Scottsdale, Arizona, where we had vacationed back a few years prior to that, and that would be our lifestyle. And we couldn't stop thinking about that. And lo and behold, it's interesting how these things work, John. When you have a goal where you can taste it, smell it, touch it, see it, and all of that, and that's all you're thinking about, you tend to take the right activity along the way to get to the goal when it's totally in alignment with where you want to be. And that's what happened for Melissa and I. And it took us 7 months. We didn't do it in 6, we took 7. But there we were, August of '04 in Greyhawk in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was exactly what we had envisioned for 6 months prior to that. So that was awesome. And you guys really inspired us because, you guys are from New Jersey and you kind of similar story. I really related to you and Shannon. You just said, hey, enough of this New Jersey winter. Let's just go live in Arizona where it's sunny all the time.
So you've brought up two tremendous points, and I hope everybody heard them. Number one is aligning yourself with people and things, opportunities, systems, programs, whatever, which are congruent with your purpose, right? So that was one point that you heard that just, bam, it was like, yeah, that right there. And the other point that you just made, which has been made many, many times throughout the years, and I think a lot of people may or may not want to actually hear it or actually act on it, and that is that laser focus on the goal, the burning desire. Like you're friggin' obsessed with moving to Arizona, and for good reason, right? Here you are in, central Pennsylvania. Not that there's anything wrong with central Pennsylvania. I like to go to central Pennsylvania and buy apple cider from the Amish and, whatever. That's cool, right? Ride my motorcycle around the horse shit that's in the street, because it's all over the place.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's where you were living, but that's cool. Okay, but you were ready for the desert, right? Which is like a magical place. Same thing with me and Shannon. We were living in New Jersey. We grew up in New Jersey, right? We did it for 30 years. Now what are we going to do, right? Well, what's the opposite of that? Oh, the desert. Great. Let's go. And in our case, we went to Tucson. And bro, we were laser focused on that.
Yeah.
And because of that resolve, here's the thing that I want people to really grasp. Because of that resolve that you demonstrated, obstacles, conditions which were uncongenial, not friendly toward your purpose, were no longer seen as, we're being stopped. No, we're not being friggin' stopped. Okay? We will not be stopped. And yeah, of course we have problems along the way. And it took 7 months instead of 6 and whatever, right? But the bottom line is that you weren't going to be stopped. And it's that sort of resolve. And I know we're coming up on New Year's here in a month and a half, 2 months. At the time of this recording. I know people are going to suddenly feel like, I'm going to be resolved. I'm going to make a New Year's resolution. And we know that it's bullshit for 99.9% of the people. Because when you're resolved, you don't need the calendar to tell you now's the day that you're supposed to be resolved, right? You just friggin' are. You are. Or you're not, right? In your case, you were. And I would assume you still are. You're still in home-based business. You're still a full-time success. You're still leading people, making sales every day, kicking holy ass. Tell us, where have you evolved to now? What's the scene looking like in home-based business in late 2012 for the Knecht family?
Well, what's interesting about now versus then is every time that we've had that goal in place, that white-hot burning desire to take us from point A to point B, we've always had the result. We've aligned it with our business and made it congruent, I think you said earlier. But along the way, we've had some times where we've dipped down, and we actually went through a personal bankruptcy at the end of last year. Because we did a lot of things wrong. We didn't plan for our taxes. We didn't structure ourselves. We didn't take the time to do the right things. But we never focused on that as a goal. We just didn't plan very well. And because of that, we stopped doing what we knew worked. And once we flushed all of that out and got back on our feet at the beginning of this, 2012, whenever you're watching this, we decided again, all right, let's get back in the game. Let's do what we know works. And let's find a place for us to grow where we can be congruent and we can be in alignment with our goals. And we started that process in March, and we found a way, we can now work from home here in 2012, going into 2013. And things have changed back in 2007 and 8 2003 and 4 when we really got started making 6 figures. it was a whole different way of doing it. You had to spend your day prospecting, picking up the phone, calling 100 leads, and doing these three-way calls and doing all of this nonsense that nobody liked doing. And I heard you say that. I think you were the guy who said I got 10,000 no's in 2004, but that led to what? I don't know, $400,000 or something like that.
Yeah, it was. I used to tell that story a lot. It was I had generated 10,000 leads. This was 2002 to 2003, so my first full year in business.
Yeah.
And the majority of those leads were from putting flyers on cars, little business card sized flyers. You remember those, and placing newspaper ads and magazines and such. Virtually nothing online, all offline, and rather laborious offline, right? Putting flyers in the desert, Phoenix and Tucson, and running around car lots in 120 degrees. Thousands and thousands of these things. Anyway, 10,000 leads my first year, made $480,000. Worked, right? It worked, but it was work, man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So now you've got obviously a bit more time leverage kind of things going on, right? You're not still putting flyers on cars?
No. And the great thing is, I took the same advice I learned years ago, and that is find people who are having the results that you want to have, figure out how they're doing it, and then just follow the system.
Yeah.
And that's what we started doing in March. We followed a company, we followed a system, we followed a mentor of mine who had his first $30,000 month, and I saw on his Facebook update. Now, of course, we didn't have Facebook back in 03 and 04, but here in 2012, going into 2013, social media is the way to communicate very quickly, and a level of authenticity, a level of, if you make mistakes in life, just own them and get it out there, because chances are people don't even see you making your mistakes because they're too busy covering up their own. So if you'll actually be the guy who's honest and say, hey, I screwed up and this is what happened and I've got 3 kids in the house and a wife and totally blew it, then just own it. So I did. And by doing that, it allowed me to focus on where I want to go because I had nothing else to hide. I could just be myself. And, getting back to following my mentor who was making $30,000 in a month, the killer, John, was that he did it without calling 1,000 leads in a month, without doing those crazy 3-way calls, without being on the phone 6 hours a day like you and I did for years. And I thought, how would that work? How do you do that? How do you make... And it was a business where I could start for $25. And I thought, well, heck, even I have $25. I can do this. And so I get started, get going, and follow the system. And all of a sudden, we create a couple of $1,000s in a couple of weeks and kind of put a little bit of money back into the advertising the way we were taught and the way it was demonstrated to me, and kind of making more money and more money. And we went to a live event in June. And at that event in June, I think we had $500 in our bank account because we had made about, I don't know, 15 or 20,000 in about 3 months, but we had spent it just getting back on our feet to pay some old bills and all that stuff. But at that event, John, we were at a live event with 3,000 people, and I got to see about a dozen leaders that I could relate with. I met them all, had conversations with all of them, and realized I could come back and have this plan to go and start making $20,000 a month. Like that.
Yeah.
And that was a normal thing for me. And we did the same thing. We decided we were in Atlanta, and we said, hey, we like this place. We've been in the desert now for 8 years. Let's shake things up. Let's move to Atlanta. So I've come to you today from my house in suburban Atlanta, about 120 days since that happened, 30 days after the next event. So, this behind me right here, we hit the goal.
What is that? What do you got? It looks like to me, it looks like a check, like an Empower Network check. It is. There it is.
Yeah, $57,000 in 90 days. And we had a couple other streams. We hit $60,000. We hit the goal.
Nice. So back to 20,000 a month. Check it out. Okay, we got people watching this who may just be curious about home-based business and maybe looking for some marketing tips or whatever. Here's a guy who's been around long enough that, number one, he's seen lots of stuff that doesn't work. Number two, he's had success. Number three, he's made mistakes and lost it. Number four, he's back to 20 grand a month, right? 60,000 in 30 days, but 20 grand a month. So you're back. You're back. And you mentioned your mentor. I happen to know who you're talking about, and you were actually his mentor as well.
Yeah, we've taken turns running together.
You've taken turns, right? So like he discovered something good. You're like, yeah, great, let's do that. You discovered something good. He's like, yeah, sign me up for that. Okay, so what I'm hearing, and this is what anybody, regardless of how long you're in home-based business, how much, if you've made millions or if you haven't made anything, okay, here's what you got to get, is that people remain coachable. In other words, and I'm not saying, oh, I never learn anything, I never make progress, so I need to keep chasing secrets. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, you don't keep chasing secrets. But like what Kevin's talking about, and I can tell you in my own position, in my own experience, I've learned so much from people who have learned so much from me. They came to the events like you, Kevin, and said, oh, holy shit, John Lavenia. I'm like, hey, whatever, it's cool. Next thing you know, they're also a top earner. And I'm like, hey, what do you got going on, right? So now it's, here we are in the digital age, and most of my success has been offline, as you know, right? Putting flyers on cars and all this other shit, pounding the phones all day. Fortunately or unfortunately, I was good at it, okay? How many people are good at it, though? Here, with what you're working with, and a lot of people know what I'm working with as well, cat's out of the bag, right? Lots of people know Empower Network is just crushing the world right now. But what we're working with doesn't require that you be like a master phone salesperson or putting flyers on cars or any of the other stuff. It's actually engaging modern tech, right, and modern methods for the public, for the masses, which I don't know what to say, man. I'm only a couple months into it, and I've made 15 grand so far. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna catch up to you now.
Than we did when we started. That's becoming a common story, which is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, so I'm right on track with where you were. Your first couple months, you made like 15 G's or something. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So I know I'm doing something right here. I was thinking, oh, I should have been at 100,000 already. Oh, okay, great. I'll be all right. I'll live. So you should have waited to get started with me. You could have waited another. How long you been in? 6, 7 months now?
7 months. We crossed $100,000 at the end of October, and I think we're at 10,000 here on the 10th of November.
Great. So you're averaging $1,000 a day. So now you're at 30 grand a month. You're at 30 grand a month. All right. So this isn't an Empower Network conversation, but I will just say this: that there are so many people that have recongregated because we've gone our separate ways. You and I have been in a couple different programs together. One of which we made a pile of money in. Okay, I made millions back in the earlier part of this last decade, millions, and spent millions too. Okay, but
that was the common theme. We all were spending what we were making. So I was just following the leader, just like you. So
yeah, there's a certain level of responsibility and maturity that you get to after having been around and actually having succeeded. Like, oh my goodness, I actually succeeded. I actually did make lots of money. Okay, now what, right? Now that we've learned how to make it and how to spend it, okay, now let's all sober up here and let's, let's do it right. But a lot of people have recongregated in that network, in that community, because of the power of it and how empowering it is. It's, literally, they named it right. And now we're seeing so many new people who are just finding out about Kevin Knecht or John Lavenia or any of these other hot shots. Just finding out about us for the first time, and maybe they've been struggling in, standard MLM. Again, not that there's anything wrong with standard MLM, not that there's anything wrong with Central Pennsylvania, right? It's just to each his own. Okay, but the vast majority of people in standard home-based business kind of stuff, they're selling the dream, aren't they? They're selling, the passive income or the residual income lifestyle. The hot cars and the coconut drinks on the beach. But how many people are actually doing that? Like 0.1% of the people that are selling that line, right? Selling that picture. What can you say to somebody who hasn't yet made it? If you could save people any pain of the last 10 years of your successes and blunders, okay? If you could save, give us the Reader's Digest version of how do you get as quickly as possible to a stable six-figure income or multiple six-figure income, which you've stabilized once again?
Well, find a product line that's going to serve you short-term and long-term, and understand that in this day and age, social media is where you want to be with whatever business, whether you're writing a book, whether you want to take classes, whether you want to even work from home at a job. You've got to have some skill sets to be on the computer and to be in, you said, the digital age. And so why not align yourself with a product line that's going to teach you how to place ads. It's going to teach you how to get onto Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and how to communicate online. Being able to communicate online, like even this video thing, us talking back and forth like this. A couple of years ago, I didn't really do this. Like you said, I'm an old dog. I was a radio guy, and I had to pick up the phone and talk like this, and so I never had to look at John. Now I've learned how to look at John while I'm talking and still not lose my train of thought totally. Although, we could go sideways pretty quickly because we like to have fun and outdo each other.
Yeah, we could talk and talk and talk. But what, excuse me, what you were saying is find a program that will serve you short term and long term.
Yeah.
I heard that, right? Because there's a lot of, hey, great, we're going to build a residual income. We're going to build it slowly. And then on the other side, there's what you and I have been accustomed to, which is eat what you kill, right? Make money now, make a pile of it, right? Okay, so you're saying combine the two. And of course, we're talking about Empower Network type of a strategy. But that is such a powerful thing, right? Because you got to be able to monetize and keep building and scale up. But at the same time, you don't want to have a gun to your head every month. You're back at zero, starting over.
Yeah.
Right. But let me just say this. Can I share something personal that I spoke about with when we were together in San Diego?
Yeah.
I was talking with your wife, and Livy was there, and Tanner was there. That's Kevin and Melissa's younger two children. And I was talking to Melissa, and I saw a look of, I guess the word would be relief. I saw relief on her face. Because, we've been around at events all over the world, you and I, and I've seen Eat What You Kill, right? I mean, I've seen that the FANG's out, and now we've got to, boost this up. We got to make the sales, right? And it's hardcore, okay? But what I saw on Melissa's face when she told me that our residual, not just new business that we write every day, but our residual business is up to, I think she was saying at that point it was like $6,000 a month, $7,000, whatever, it might be $10,000 a month at this point. Just knowing that yes, you've got the ability to play big and to make boom, 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 lots of sales, but also knowing that even if you didn't do that, here's the bills are paid. Don't even think about your bills, okay? Here's your $6,000-10,000 a month, whatever it is. Here's my point of saying this. How much easier is it to sell? How much easier is it to promote and to have that posture? A lot of times in home-based business, we talk about the posture, the relaxed confidence, the certainty of knowing that you're going to reach your goals regardless. Great. Now that you've built in short order, just a few months, you've built that residual income and you continue to add new business on top of it. How much easier is it to add the new business on top of it when you don't give a damn if they buy or not because your bills are paid anyway, man? Who gives a shit, right? Hopefully for your sake you get started, Mr. Prospect. But look, I'm cool, right? Isn't that the real creme de la creme, right? Isn't that the real thing that we're looking for? Not just the money, hey, you got a nice car again. Okay, fine. Okay, but that psychic pay, that knowingness. I can keep talking about this, but I won't. Talk. Kevin, back to you. Talk.
Well, the confidence came from just in seeing how this compensation plan is set up. Because in the past, I joined an MLM where, 7% commissions, it takes 14 and a half customers just to break even. And here at Empower Network, we make 100% commissions. So you buy a product, you have somebody else sign up behind you, and you make your money back. I mean, and I knew I could sign somebody up within 24 hours. I just knew I could do that. I mean, how could you not for $25 and just scale your way up from there? So, and you said about the residual earlier, having the rebillings and having the ability to have, that money coming in. We just moved across the country. We spent basically 30 days of October, we spent moving across the country, and we still had a 5-figure month without doing anything.
That's awesome. Yeah, all right. So I didn't intend for this to be an Empower Network conversation, but we're just so damn excited about it. Bottom line is it's what's working now. And you know what? I talked to a mutual friend of ours, a guy that we've known for years. He's a company owner. They recently consulted with one of these internet marketing gurus to do a product launch because they were, kind of stalled with their business model. They're high ticket, okay? And I participated in the launch. I was like, yeah, I got a few thousand people I can email, I guess, and and see what's going on and everything. And it was abysmal, the results that I saw with the uptake on this sort of trying to continue to do things. Here's my assessment, and I'm not going to mention any names because this will just be between you and me. And I like the guy. Okay, I want him to succeed. But what I'm seeing is that he's beating a horse that's so friggin' dead, man. The horse is dead. It shit itself. It threw up, and it's already in the ground. Okay, and it's a business model like what you and I were accustomed to from years and years ago, and trying to keep riding that horse. Whereas I think and again, it's just my opinion, I think the smartest people in the home business space right now are, because of the times, because of the changing times, the introduction of digital media and all this other stuff, I think they've again become the students, which I was a little prideful and reluctant to at first, right? I was like, no, I mean, I already know how to make millions riding that old horse. And I don't care how grueling it is, right? Bring on the pain. That's fine. I mean, that's the kind of attitude that I've had in, go to the gym and all this, which I know you're doing now too, right? In fact, I think you're wearing your gym clothes there. You're probably getting ready to go pump some iron, yeah?
I am.
Yeah, that's good. So my point is that it's not like, oh, I just want to stay comfortable. And I think that with a lot of people now who are still, riding an old horse, I don't think it's just because they want to be comfortable. I think it's all they know. And so when people are able to, for such a, paltry entry fee, get exposure to 21st century methods, what's working now, with virtually no risk. And I mean, like you said before, if you can make one sale, you break even. I mean, so if you've got enough self-belief and enough self-confidence, then you can sell one. Okay, great. So then what I do at this point where I'm at is I'll just look at whoever's getting the best results, authentic results. I know there's a lot of bullshit happening on the web too. Okay, but when I see authentic results, guys like you and the other people that I know in this new marketing space, I'm the student, man. No more pride, no more, hey, look at me, I'm an author, and I've already made millions, and you know what, pride comes before the fall, and I think there's a lot of people who could benefit from knowing just your story and just how you've been able to pick yourself back up out of the ashes like a phoenix. No pun intended. You lived in Phoenix for 8 years. So anyway, any closing comments, Kevin? I'm really appreciating this time, with you here and exposing you to the entire Bold Statement Marketing audience. Any last tips or advice for anybody watching, independent of whatever company they may be with or whatever they're doing now?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for having me, John. I mean, it's been a privilege to get to know you and Shannon and now Trinity. And I remember years ago, you guys were doing this so you could start a family. And look at you now. You followed through. You've got the family, which is awesome. So there's true authenticity. In fact, you want to write a book about this someday. You really have a lot to say. No.
Maybe I should write a book
guys,
about...
Get the book. John's book, Integrity is Everything. It's one of my favorites on the shelf. And it really ranks right up there with Think and Grow Rich. It ranks right up there with a couple of the other Kiyosaki books that I like. And it's just about the authenticity. And knowing John before he wrote the book, knowing John as he wrote the book and afterwards, it's a message that can really help people to inspire to kind of unlock their inner greatness, because I think a lot of people grow up and don't realize how great they are. And when you get around a group of entrepreneurs who are having results in life and you realize there's really no difference between them and you, that's pretty rewarding. And now, John, now that you have a family, you understand when you can be that example. Be that example. Instead of telling your kids they can be anything they want, but you do it first. That's the best authenticity I can think of out there. And my final thought is this. You probably love Tower Records, like back in the 80s and 90s. Like I used to go to Philly and like, man, Tower Records, let me go there and see every CD or record that was out back then. But of course that model broke. Now you go to iTunes. So, if you want to be in the recording industry today, you better be iTunes friendly. You better be on YouTube and everything else. And you've got to adapt to change. So you chose to make that change. I chose to make that change. There are some business owners who are still trying to be the owner of Tower Records instead of being the owner of iTunes and YouTube, right? And those guys are even figuring it out now. Fortunately, we didn't take that long to figure out. Maybe we weren't the first in the game, but we're here now, and we're taking our success that we had previously and applying it here in a big way. And I know there's a lot of people watching this right now who are saying, all right, well, those guys can do it. Then sign me up. Where do I sign up? Yeah,
well, I'll tell you where to sign up. Find the link right around this video somewhere. That's it. That's how you sign up. And it really is that simple. And I think that clear cut of a message, Kevin. So So thank you, and thank you for the plug on the book too. I still see Amazon keeps sending me invoices, or not invoices, but statements saying, "Yeah, you've sold this many books this week. You've sold this many books." I'm like, nice, right? So there it is, residual income. Write the damn book, publish it, and you're done, right? Well, you got to market it too, which I haven't done. I need to do some more of that. So, but thank you for all you offer, not just to your own personal team that you work with, but also to the industry as a longstanding proponent of entrepreneurialism, despite all the crap that's going on in the world. Man, you and your wife keep charging. So thank you for all you do, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, John, and thank you for doing what you do. You helped me get out of a spot with just your example back in 2003. So I'm grateful for you, brother.
Thank you, man. Well, good. We're going to wrap it up with that. I'm going to see everybody in another Interviews with Experts episode here on Bold Statement Marketing. In the meantime, get started. Do something. Here we go. All right. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.